All right. Hey everyone, welcome to this webinar, Why CSO? My name is Chris and I'm going to be your host for this chat. Now, to give us some context, CSO is an abbreviation for Christian Science Organizations. And this is a community of graduate and undergraduate students, faculty, instructors, and alumni. They can come together on campus and uh, they bring healing to issues that their campuses are facing. Now, it's a forum for discussing metaphysical approaches to navigating college life, with a focus on providing solutions. Involvement is open to the entire campus community, and each CSO is unique. They're different. So they all share the desire to make make these ideas of Christian Science more accessible to their community. Now, so whether you're currently a student at school, or you're thinking about the deeper meaning of being a CSO member, or you're on the outside of all of this and you're dealing with a lot of the same issues of purpose and considering why you should get involved, we hope that you enjoy this discussion and walk away with some ideas that you can apply to your own life. Now, if you have any questions, please contribute them to the chat roll here on the Webinar Jam page, and we'll be sure to answer them as soon as we possibly can. And we have 6 guests with us. 4 of them are students that are part of our regional representative program, and they're going to introduce themselves now. And we also have 2 staff members from TMC Youth as well. But because I'm from Tacoma, Washington, I want to pass it off to the regional representative who's closest to me here in the Pacific Northwest. So Camille, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, hi, I'm Camille Richardson. I just started graduate school at Oregon State University. I'm getting my PhD in chemistry. I only joined a CSO my senior year as an undergraduate, but I'm so grateful I did, and I really want to continue working with CSOs. Yeah.
Thanks, and maybe let's go down the West Coast, down to UC Berkeley.
Yeah, hey. So I'm Matt. I'm studying computer science at UC Berkeley, and I'm the West rep for the CSOs. And I joined the CSO the beginning of my freshman year, so this is my 3rd year in CSO.
All right, hi, I'm Jocelyn. I go to Principia College. I'm a junior. I am studying creative writing and a minor in French and education. And I joined CSO my junior year, which is actually this year. And so it's been really exciting for me to be part of CSO team.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm at the College of William & Mary in Virginia, so I'm the rep for Virginia North, so Northeast rep, and I'm a senior studying finance. So I joined the CSO when I was a freshman.
Very cool. And I am Claire McLeland. I work for TMC Youth, primarily with the international CSO. So you guys might not hear from me as much, but I am equally available to you should you need anything.
And my name's Ariana. I'm one of the managers of TMC Youth focused on the programming side, which includes CSO support, and I'm based in Boston. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about why we're having this workshop, this live chat, and just what the purpose of it is. And one of the things that has really resonated with me in thinking about this and thinking about, CSO in general was a story it was an analogy that was shared at annual meeting. So it might seem somewhat familiar to some of you. But there were 3 bricklayers, and somebody comes to the first bricklayer and says, hey, what are you doing? The first guy says, well, I'm laying brick. Goes to the second guy, asks the same question. That guy says, I'm building a wall. Goes to the third guy, asks the same question. That guy says, I'm building a cathedral. So you've got 3 people who are doing all the same things, but with a completely different vision for what they are a part of. And so this discussion today is really about, taking a step back from just the day-to-day kind of CSO work, because sometimes it can be so easy just to get wrapped up into the small details and really step back and think about what CSO activity is on a much larger scale. What is the bigger picture of it? Like really seeing it as, what are we a part of? Just like that bricklayer who, even though he's doing just these little things, he really sees his role in building this cathedral. And I think it is helpful to take a step back and think about both CSO, the concept of CSO activity, and also Christian Science from a bigger perspective. Because sometimes it can just feel like CSO activity is just, kind of a club for, Christian Science students or professors to come together. And without a doubt, it can be a great support system. But I think what we're a part of is so much more than that, really making these ideas accessible on a college campus. And I like to think of college campuses as a place, where people can really grapple with and pick apart and discuss, the cutting edge ideas of the day. And you think about what Christian Science, the ideas, the principles in Christian Science, and the impact that they can have. And we get to play a role in making these ideas more accessible on our campuses. And it requires kind of thinking about that and the activity from that bigger, broader standpoint. And it's the same thing with the concept of Christian Science, because a lot of times you can just slip into thinking about it as just like one religion of many, and instead thinking about it as, the study of these universal laws that anybody can put into practice. And so that's what we're going to be really thinking about today, and thinking about how to incorporate that, and starting from that basis of that broader sense of CSO activity that, we get to be a part of.
Thanks for the big picture, Ariana. The first question I want to ask to our regional representatives is, why do you guys feel like it's important to get involved in this? With all the other responsibilities you have on your campus, why did you make these Christian Science organizations a priority? And feel free to popcorn. Who wants to respond first?
So I guess I can go first. So when I joined CSO my freshman year, I was like immediately reminded of home, just because like everyone was so loving and so welcoming. And so the CSO has kind of just been like this tremendous family to me. Even though people have gone and we're down to, I think we have 3 members now and a couple faculty members, but it's not really about the size of the CSO. It's more about just like the things that you express and like the collective group, I guess. So to me, like the CSO has been a huge source of strength and kind of guidance and doing my academic work. So that's kind of why I make CSO a priority, just so I can like be with this family and kind of grow together with them.
For me, it was about being a part of something bigger than myself. For 2 years, I didn't really see much reason to join the CSO because I felt like I didn't have anything to give. Like, there were enough people in the CSO who had a lot of stuff to do. What was I supposed to go do in there? Like, what was my role? And I went to Boston and I interned with TMC Youth, and there was just so much spiritual growth, and I realized that there was so much I could give to CSO, so much I could serve in whatever capacity. It didn't have to be something absolutely huge. It could just be ushering or going in and smiling at an usher and saying, "Oh, good, thank you for ushering today." It was just, just something a lot bigger than thinking about just myself. And I can absolutely say that it has paid a lot, because this semester has been really challenging for me. But being a regional rep was just the perfect answer to everything. Like, I would have so much to do, but I would always come back to the fact that I was the regional rep, and I was talking with other CSOs and learning things they were doing and praying for them and praying for myself. And I just felt so at peace with that. And it was really the right decision for me to be part of a CSO. It just is so giving, so heartwarming to be part of this cause.
Yeah, jumping off of Jocelyn, as an undergrad, I went to Principia also, and I had a similar situation where the CSO was just so big that I felt like it was a little contrived, and I don't know, like I didn't feel like my role was that important. But then at some point, I realized that what it was I had a reluctance to, like, I was willing to associate myself with the ideas of Christian Science, but for some reason I wasn't willing to associate myself with the church. Like, that was really hard for me. And for me, joining CSO was having the humility to associate myself with the church, which is the support for Christian Science. And then as a graduate student, I am in the process of starting a CSO here at OSU. And the reason that I wanted to help get involved with CSOs in general is because I saw how helpful it was for me to be willing to have the humility to, like, say that I was willing to share Christian Science with other people as a church, not just as ideas. And I want to be able to bring that to not just a Christian Science school, but to like a big university here. And I've noticed that just in the first 3 weeks that I've been here, every opportunity I've had to share Christian Science has been, like, at first it was terrifying because I don't know what anybody thinks, but each opportunity I've had to share Christian Science has just been so amazing, and everybody's been really open and questioning. So yeah.
I love just jumping in really quickly. I loved what you were talking about, because I think your experience of being connected to the ideas of Christian Science, but not really wanting to get involved in, like, the organization of it, whether it's CSO or whether it's church. I feel like a lot of people, face that. And it's so easy just to practice it individually on your own. So I think that's something for, just to be, I think for each one of us to kind of to think about. But the benefits, I think, can be so huge, and often we slip into thinking of it as kind of like, oh, it's this chore that we have to be a part of, and it's draining, and I love what all of you so far have shared about just how it's benefited you. But I think that opportunity, because sometimes, especially for people who are on larger college campuses where there may be only like 1 or 2 or 3 Christian Scientists, and there may be 30 or 40,000 other students, just having the opportunity to get together and to work together, so it doesn't feel so like you're so on your own. And I think the same goes for church too. That it's an opportunity to share these ideas, but not feeling like all the responsibility is coming just on your shoulders, but really that we can work together and support each other in doing this. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, Ariana, just going off what you said about sharing, I think it's really important to not just practice alone, but be able to identify and say, I am a Christian Scientist, and be that person on campus where if someone has questions they can go to. And when people ask you, hey, why are you dressed up on a Sunday? And you're like, hey, I went to church today. Just being able to say, like, be the person that people can go to on campus. Even if you're the only one on campus, you're still that resource that can share and bring that Christ message that we all know has helped us so much. And that's why I really like being in CSOs, because it's a place to share, and it's a place to let ideas germinate so that you can articulate them to the rest of campus. Because I think there's a lot of people out there who are willing to listen and who are looking for that kind of spiritual guidance that CSOs are able to provide.
And Katie, what you shared, kind of it going off, it kind of dovetails into the next question, because you all talked about, just the different ways that it's benefited you in terms of support and feeling like family and things like that. And you were talking a little bit about, how it supported you spiritually. And I was just wondering, have you found that involvement in CSO is something that has fed you spiritually? And do you feel like it has deepened your understanding and your practice of Christian Science? And if so, how so?
Absolutely. There's so much I can gain from listening to the experiences of other people. Even just, we were talking about, just now in my CSO, we were talking about love, or we're working on the synonyms, going through each of them, and we were talking about love for this week. And someone brought up the quote from Science and Health from Yosemite about so it's something about returning love, and it immediately went to a deeper level than what I had prepared for, and that was something that it just kind of blew my mind that that being able to engage with other people about Christian Science, they're teaching me so much more than I could ever gain on my own, and I think that's really what the spiritual growth has come from, is being able to turn to people in my age who are dealing with the same issues and say, hey, this is what's going on, and people immediately having a response that's better than what I could have ever come up with on my own. I think it's a way, I think that CSOs for me it's been a way that God spoke to me through these other people, my CSO, and so learning from them has been such a blessing.
Great, and that quote that you shared, for those of you who are listening in, that's from Science and Health, from the section, the glossary. It's page 586, the definition of Gethsemane, and it's love, meeting no response, but still remaining love, which is awesome. I've always loved that too.
And it's awesome in terms of CSOs because we're here giving love, and when you're in a CSO, you're not always going to find it back from other religious groups, and you're trying to share Christian Science, and maybe someone's not being responsive, or it's just not coming off the way you planned. That's love that you're still giving it. It doesn't change the nature of love.
So true.
I've had kind of a similar experience with my CSO. So there are a couple of faculty members who join our meetings, and they are just like have such a wealth of stories and different experiences to share. So I think that has really kind of like blessed me and the others in the CSO, and kind of like almost given me direction. Like especially on my campus, there's a lot of kind of fear around education. It's very like kind of self-centered, like how am I going to learn what I need to know to perform well on the test to get a job? It's very like shallow. But I think like listening to the different experiences of the faculty members who have passed through this university has really like opened my eyes to see kind of like the overall purpose of education and how I can bless others by learning. So like it's kind of, the CSO has given me the direction to take focus off of myself and onto the work that I'm doing in order to bless others.
That's great.
Yeah, I would say joining the CSO as an undergrad was one of the best things I did in terms of like spiritual growth, but it wasn't the physical act of joining the CSO. It was the mental switch from how can Christian Science help me to like how can I help and support the church, and having that mentality of like what can I do rather than like what can I get was definitely a mind shift that like helped me, or a mental shift that helped me move forward and grow spiritually. Yeah.
You know, Camille, I really resonate with what you just said, and I too think that CSO provides us an opportunity to serve, and just that service ultimately is going to just bring immense blessings to our life. And just to answer Ariana's question about how has CSO activity spiritually fed us, I do want to share one healing that I had from my experience in a CSO. I was just wandering, so to speak, in the shadows for a few years there in university or in college, and I wasn't sure exactly what my purpose was. I wasn't sure exactly what morality was, and I was found it intriguing to break rules and to get entertained in a variety of different ways. And it was just a really dualistic part of my life experience. It was just I was saying one thing, going to church and really trying to learn about God, and then at different points in my life experience, that I was just breaking rules and just being deceiving to my friends and my family. I was lying and I wasn't being honest. And I actually had a major moment of breakthrough where the light just really shined in my thought, and it was largely because of the Christian Science organization, this strong Christian community that supported me and asked me the most honest question ever. And they said, Chris, are you being honest with yourself? And are you being honest with God? And I just was, it just all of everything just really fell away that was, pulling me down those years in my experience. And I had such an amazing sense of relief. Like it just fell away, and I was able to look towards my brothers and my sisters and serve the CSO. I mean, literally just a few days after this whole healing, this whole cleansing of my experience, literally a few days after, I went to a CSO meeting and I was elected to be a reader. I mean, it was such a cool breakthrough, and I really attribute that healing and the continued healing from that experience to the CSO. It really grounded me, and it kept me solid in the months to follow, because I was tested time and time and time again, but the CSO became so much more meaningful to me after that healing.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of what Chris is saying, mine wasn't as dramatic as yours, but it was also that sense of peace, of knowing that you're doing the right thing and you're in the right place. And yeah, this semester, like I just joined the CSO, and I'm still learning a lot, and I'm really trying to work with people and trying to serve. And I'm at that place where I seem to have challenges, but the CSO has been that one thing. The CSO work, or being part of the CSO itself here as an usher, has been the thing that has sort of kept me going this semester, where I get to talk to people about the things that I have questions about, and we have this amazing conversations where you get out and you just feel like, oh my gosh, it's like there was a light in that room and I'm just taking it with me everywhere, and if I hadn't joined the CSO, I would not have that, because I wouldn't be a part of the conversations. I wouldn't be a part of all this absolute love that is just being spread through CSOs everywhere. And to me, I still just wake up every day with so much gratitude for that. Like, oh my gosh, this is great that I'm part of this. This is just awesome that I gain all of this, and I keep trying to give back, because I am gaining so much every single day from being a part of the CSO.
Hey, Katie, I'm curious, over at William and Mary, or Matt over at the UC Berkeley CSOs, where you guys are smaller core groups of individuals. How has CSO spiritually fed you? To kind of go back to that question that Ariana asked, how have the light, like that Jocelyn was describing, kind of been brought out through your CSO experiences?
Matt, do you want to go, or I know we both.
Go ahead. You want? Yeah.
Okay. I think that we've talked a lot about how we're in college, really busy, but having a set amount of time every week to, in addition to Wednesday night meetings and Sunday morning meetings, and having a set time every week to just reflect and be at peace and be quiet is really special. And I think that with all the hectic stuff that goes on, when I know at 3:30 on Sundays I need to be at CSO, and it kind of gives me this zone where I kind of am allowed to forget everything and only focus on God. And I think that we forget a lot of times in college to go back into our closet and kind of pray. And I think that's how being in CSO spiritually fed me, is just having this set time every week where it's dedicated to God and a small group. And even I think people who have CSOs as just one person or so, just having that set time that you're going to pray that day is really cool. And having the consistency allows you to grow on what you've learned previously. So I think that's how it spiritually fed me, is just the consistency and the support that comes from knowing that you have that time to be with God.
Chris, I think in response to your question about having a smaller CSO, for me, I mean, it's no different having tons of people and having only a few people. Like, in a sense, you get to know the people around you on a more personal level, and you really get to open up to different people about different things you're struggling through in your life, or different past experiences. So it's almost a blessing to have like this really close, tight-knit community, because really everything is on the table and you can discuss anything you want. Um, and so that's been incredibly helpful to me, just because like you have that community where you can open up totally. And I know in college, especially like at large universities, it's very hard to find that sense of community where you can actually like truly open up and talk about like what you're struggling through, what your goals are, and everything like that. So I think there's still like incredibly a lot to gain from a CSO, no matter the size.
Totally. Thanks for bringing that up, Matt. And in my work for the Mother Church, I've actually traveled around the United States and met with students on campuses, and I can't rattle off the exact numbers, but I've met with a lot of students, and a lot of times there's this general feeling of I'm alone, I'm the only Christian Scientist in this community. What's the purpose? You know, it can be really easy for someone just to slip into the thinking, am I even needed? And so how can I, or how can you guys, or how can the CSO really have an impact on campus? That's the big question here. Could each of you guys respond to this idea of feeling like maybe being alone or not, like what's your role, and then what is the role that the CSO can play? What impact can the CSO have?
I think there's nothing too small. Every step is a step towards something greater. And it doesn't matter how little you think what you're trying to do is, it's going to impact in the long run. For instance, there's a CSO that's planning on making subscriptions for their freshman dorms, subscriptions to the Monitor. And that is their way of, bringing Christian Science into their communities, sort of an outreach. And that is so huge, because that is a way of bringing out Christian Science. People are going to read the Monitor. They're going to see the way they tell the news. They're going to get interested. They want to know more. It could just be praying. It could just be telling someone about your experience, about how you're dealing with school, which is different from how they're dealing with it. And to me, there's just no little thing. Like everything you do, as long as you're focused on God, and you have absolute pure desire and love to share, Christian Science in whatever way you want to, you will always do it right, and you will impact the community. Maybe you don't see it right away, but there's the impact that's going on. It's being felt. You may just be praying. Did I say just? No. You may be praying, but you're changing people's lives just with the prayer, because that is a big thing. It's really huge. And so I just look at it like CSOs are impacting every day. We may not realize it, but we are doing a huge job, and we're changing lives. We're telling our story, and we're just awakening people to the fact that we're all Christian Scientists. We're all made in the image and likeness of God, and we all have the purpose to reflect God, and we are reflecting God. We just have to understand that. And so, yeah, I think CSOs are just really doing a huge job, no matter how tiny what they're doing is, or what they're doing seems to be.
Yeah, jumping off of that, I have two examples of like impacting with one person. So a couple weekends ago, I was at an event at Camp Wild that was just like a weekend for Christian Scientists, and there was one person from University of British Columbia who ended up bringing like two people he'd met at UBC during orientation week to the weekend, just non-Christian Scientists, like random people that he was like, there's this cool thing, do you want to go? And they were like, yeah. So that was really, really great. There was a couple other UBC people there, but they were unrelated. And also, right now, I am the only Christian Scientist that I know of on the Oregon State University campus. And it's been really good so far. I was expecting it to be really terrifying, but actually more people, because I'm in like a science department, and so most of my expectation was that most of the people would be really opposed to any sort of ideas about God or Christianity or whatever. But everybody I've talked to so far has had some level of interest. Even my advisor, it turns out, is Christian, and we had like a discussion about Christian Science for a minute or so, which was a total surprise. So that really, I'm in the process of starting the CSO here. I've only been here for a few weeks, but just those little interactions help me realize how like I can impact individually so many different people, and so I might as well go for it as one person, because so far it's been great.
So I kind of want to like go off of Jocelyn's idea of how the CSO is kind of impacting the campus every day, even if you don't know it. So there are like certain things we do in our meetings. Like sometimes we'll pray for the campus as a whole. If we see like an issue in Berkeley that's been affecting students or something. So there's that aspect of blessing the campus, but also like the CSO has kind of given me direction on how to kind of live my life and like following Jesus' example. And so I think that kind of indirectly blesses other people, just because I kind of learned so much from the CSO about, like I said, living my life and expressing more love to people. And so I think that like after our CSO meetings, I feel so uplifted, and then I go out into the campus community and kind of share that love with other people. So I think that the CSO might not be directly affecting everyone on campus because not everyone's going to the meetings, but I think it's kind of like supplying its own members with the ability to go out and love and like bless other people.
Matt, I think you're right. I think that's you hit the nail on the head on being able to be that, let the light shine through you, and do it as you interact with other people. I go to a suicide school, and it's just every time an incident happens, I feel like a group of friends and I always get together and talk about it in a spiritual way, and having the Christian Science perspective on it is really cool, and that's one of the things that when we asked our CSOs needed, am I needed to pray for this campus? Absolutely, because it's you have so much insight into how Jesus wanted you to live your life, and I think that love that you just let shine, and I think it brings a lot of goodness to the campus. So it's needed in that sense, and it's also just, good thoughts are an impervious armor, and you're protecting the entire campus with your good thoughts. So it is more effective than it seems to be, I think.
Katie, I just want to bring in a citation from the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew 18, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name. There am I in the midst of them. I really applaud you for taking that stand when something tragic happens on campus, and taking that stand to really correct it mentally and just realize the presence of God, and to see the presence of the Christ healing everyone right here and now. That's really commendable, and that's really what a CSO is doing, isn't it?
Definitely. Thanks for sharing that, putting that quote in. So our last question before we get to the questions that people have been sending in or submitting on the chat roll. So for those of you who are aware, the past 2 years, the theme of annual meeting has been a church of healers. And I just want to dig into that as it relates to CSO. And of course, CSOs are independent from branch churches, but it is an activity found in the church manual, so it is part of this larger sense of church. And so just one thing I wanted to know from you all is just how have you been nurturing this idea of being a healer on your own campus? Because every Christian Scientist, whether or not they're a part of a CSO, is a healer. And just nurturing that sense of you all are there to pray about and to address metaphysically issues that come up that your campus is grappling with. And so I was just wondering how you were kind of nurturing that identity as a healer in your own lives.
For me, I keep thinking that it's important to keep remembering that God is actually the healer, and all we do is reflect His power, reflect His grace. And when we understand that fact, we pray knowing that His laws, like, they never really vary, they never change. And whatever His laws are, which love one another, and we, as long as we adhere to these, we have absolute selflessness and humility, we're bringing healing everywhere. Just knowing this and just diligently trying to demonstrate this, I think it just brings absolute healing everywhere we go, not just on the campuses, but out of campus as well and in our lives.
So we have like a guest who wants to speak on the behalf of the CSO, if that's okay. So this is
Hello.
She's one of our faculty members who joins our CSO meetings every week, and she went to Berkeley.
Yeah, so did my mother.
Yeah.
Actually.
So she's been here.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say that we've taken up. You've already talked about this, but wasn't it last year we took up a contagion, and we're just handling that fear for all of us and for the campus, and we really felt so protected and as though we were helping our classmates and so on. And then we also have been really working to reach out to our, I guess you could call it, the other faith groups on our campus. And we've been praying about that just to have a sense of fellowship. And we hadn't done anything as far as, except a few actual contacts, I think, when at the beginning, just to sort of introduce ourselves. But one day someone showed up at our weekly meeting, and asked if we might be willing to rent our building to them for their Bible study once a week. And so we ended up doing that, and it's been just a great blessing. They were so excited that we had so many Bibles and reference works, and so we've had a sense again that we're helping our community, and they're really being benefited by being in around all our Christian Science books.
And then one thing to add on to that, as in regards to like being a healer for the campus, one thing I like to do is just to like really see everyone as they truly are, as a pure and innocent reflection of God. It's surprising like how much that can change your attitude throughout the day. Just take a minute. Like, I like to just sit on campus where a lot of people walk by, and literally I just observe and I reflect, and I just observe like each one's pure nature as a child of God. And that has such like a healing impact on my own thought, and I hope like to the thoughts of those people passing by. And like also like testing situations. Like, I've been in like final exam or midterms with like 600 people in the same room, and there's such a sense of like kind of fear and like, oh, I have to do better than this person sitting next to me if I want to get a good grade in the class. But really acknowledging their identity as a child of God and their ability to express intelligence in their own way, and that there's no lack of good that can be supplied. So yeah, just like seeing everyone as they truly are as a child of God has been really helpful and kind of healing.
That's really cool, Matt. I would actually love to jump in on this topic too, because it's really related to what I've been thinking about. Just thinking about you guys all on college campuses, it's really coming to my thought to pray about the idea of like an aggressor and a victim in whatever context that may be. And really just cherishing the fact that the biggest way I can help is through my prayer, and really trusting that prayer to be effective in the same way that you're saying, like you just are around people and are supporting them prayerfully in a testing situation. Yeah, really trusting that. And I went to a lecture this week that was really cool. And the lecturer had left church one evening and seen two guys just get in a huge fight. And it was really messy. And he said he went and talked to one guy and just walked away with him talking to him about how good he was and how God loves him. And he said by the end, it was this incredible story, and by the end, both men had told this individual that they loved him and had totally reconciled. And it was a full 180. And I think that it's a really special thing right now to be realizing how powerful our prayers can be in those kinds of situations.
That's great.
Yeah, I too just want to jump in and just share a quote from Science and Health that I think really relates to what both Matt and Claire were talking about. Just praying on campus, praying for your fellow students, your peers, praying for the faculty, just praying for the thought and the research that's happening on campus. This is an idea that Mary Baker Eddy records in her book No and Yes, and it's found in the Prose Works. So she writes, if the Bible and Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures had the place in schools of learning that physiology occupies, they would revolutionize and reform the world. Through the power of Christ, it is true that it requires more study to understand and demonstrate what these works teach than to learn theology, physiology, or physics, because they teach divine science with fixed principle, given rule, and unmistakable proof. So one example of a CSO that's doing this on a weekly basis is at Columbia University in New York City. It's a downtown campus, and they meet weekly just to read the Bible lesson. They have their Bible and the Science and Health there, and they meet in a common place on campus. And there's a few of them that get together regularly just to listen to our pastor's word and let their presence be known. They don't have official resources being given to them by the school, so they just, even though they don't have a specified room and they don't get on the campus activities, they still are making the effort to form this idea and to share Christian Science on their campus. So it's just, whatever they can do, they're doing it, and this is what's working well for them right now. So I think we are probably at a good point now where we can answer any questions that we have from the audience. But yeah, let me just say that there is a conversation going on, and I haven't been keeping the best track of it. But we would welcome anyone's questions. Or do any of the reps have final comments to say as we start wrapping this conversation up?
We haven't talked a lot about sharing Christian Science publicly, but I think that's something cool that CSOs are able to do, is to table or to sponsor lectures or bring lectures into classrooms or something that is something we should let the audience know. That is a really cool way to share Christian Science, and it's one of the purposes of the CSO is to be able to share Christian Science with the campus, and there's lots of different ways that you can do that. So.
So I do have one comment here from Sarah, who said that for those of you who go to large colleges, how do you not feel this? How do you not feel this? How do you not feel like the CSO or your Christ light is suffocated or not shown at all due to so many erroneous thoughts seeming to be more powerful? Essentially, how do you not feel pressed out as being the minority, being a Christian Scientist on such a huge campus? You know, maybe you're on a school of 60,000, you know, like they have down at the University of Central Florida, or you know, there's schools even larger than that. How do you not feel, you know, pointless in this work? I think that's a really good question, Sarah. Does anyone want to respond to that?
There's a couple of things. First of all, I think that there's people who are Christian Scientists in spirit that don't necessarily identify as Christian Scientists. So I think it's that you're going to find that there's other people who are very receptive to listening to you talk about Jesus' teachings or the way that God created us all and loves us more than anything. And that's a way to share Christian Science and find your people without necessarily having other Christian Scientists on campus. I also, my CSO today was talking about alcohol and why we don't drink alcohol, not just because it's a material substance, but also because it kind of dims your light that is shining, and how just going around and being yourself is so much cooler than anything that like a substance could give you. And I think that's like the root of it. Is just being yourself is a way to let your light shine, and people are attracted to that. People love to see. They'll see that you're showing this Christ-like spirit, whether you're actively saying, "Hi, I'm a Christian Scientist" or not. And I think that's a good way to be active on campus, even if you're the only one.
Yeah, I think going off of that, I think it's really important to remember that it is impossible for any sort of Christ light to be suffocated by error. In the same way that you can't suffocate light with dark, because light is the reality. Dark is not a thing. Man, Katie, something that I really liked. Can't remember what it is right now. But I think one way that we can feel like we're sort of being shut out by being like one amongst many is if we don't have anyone else that we can connect with or anybody else we can talk to. Because that's sort of how I felt initially because I am at a giant state school and I'm like one amongst a bunch of people. And having somebody, like going to Wednesday church and Sunday church, having somebody I could talk to about just about Christian Science in general was incredibly helpful and left me every week feeling like super great about, just very sure that everybody was totally supported by God.
Yeah.
So one thing you can do is reach out to your representative, your CSO representative, and talk to them, whoever they are.
Camille, I love the pitch. The CSO regional representatives are there for everyone who wants to contact them about Christian Science organizations. And and if it's not specifically about Christian Science organization, that's okay too. The regional representatives are there to just connect with all students of Christian Science on their campuses and to support them and help them feel connected with the Mother Church. Help them feel connected with the value that the Mother Church is bringing to the world, this sense of love and healing that the Mother Church really is truly sharing and expressing. Now, Camille, there's actually a question that came directly for you from the chat roll, so I want to read it and ask. It was someone that wrote, if I understand correctly, you're trying to get a CSO going at your university, at Oregon State University, for a community who used to have a CSO which has gone totally inactive. Do you have any helpful ideas for those of us who are no longer in college but who would love to see a CSO active?
Well, that's the situation at Oregon State right now. Is there was a CSO, it's totally inactive right now. I have to figure out how to reactivate it, I guess. So I found an alumni, or no, a faculty member who can, yeah, like help get it started. But I just have to figure out how to do that. But I would say for you, like a good way to do that would be to through the church, figure out how to like have a lecture or do some sort of event or something, and then advertise it on campus. Because I think that you do need like a student. I don't know. You have to tell me if this is true, Chris. But you need like some sort of student member to have a CSO, right?
Well,
is that true?
Yeah, a CSO, it happens because you have people on campus that students, faculty, instructors who are also Christian Scientists who want to fulfill this manual bylaw, which is technically separate from a branch church. Is technically separate from.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you need like to start a CSO? Do you have to have a student?
No, not technically. I mean, there are
okay.
CSOs.
So you could just start a CSO as an alumni.
It matters what the school has to say. The school's rules are really what dictate all of this. So, for example, at Syracuse University, their Christian Science organization is recognized through their chapel, and there's a faculty member at Syracuse who's able to process the paperwork every single year and get the CSO formally recognized. And then they make the appeal to the students through that avenue. But typically CSOs are grassroots. They are governed and run by students and faculty together.
So you need a student or a faculty member.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So not okay. Yes. So
it can't just be an alumni. Yeah, alum.
Alum. But couldn't you have like if what you're looking for is like some sort of way for Christian Science to reach college campuses, there's more than just like the CSO avenue for that, right? I guess it depends on what they're really looking for.
Exactly. There are branch churches that sponsor lectures on college campuses or that sponsor lectures, classroom lectures too. I mean, it just depends on the rules of the school. Sometimes only officially recognized clubs or groups can sponsor lectures, but other times that's not the case. And there are a lot of lectures that take place in classrooms every single year that aren't sponsored by CSOs, and they're usually sponsored by a branch church. So that's definitely something, if there was a local church member who really wanted to, or a local church that wanted to do more on a college campus, reach out to that audience, that's definitely a possibility. But if this person who's writing in, they can always get in touch with us because we have our database of college students. Obviously, we don't know of every Christian Science college student across the country or around the world, but they should get in touch with us because we can let them know if we know of any students or faculty members on the campus that they're talking about, and then we can put them in touch together, because alumni definitely can be a part of the CSO, but it has to be with kind of the unanimous approval of the CSO members, so you need to have CSO members to get that approval. Yeah.
Real quick, we have an experience of inactiveness at CSO Berkeley, and Barbara wants to share what we did.
A number of years ago, we didn't have any students, and I think there were about 8 or 10 local members, the different Christian Science churches in the area. Some were alums of UC Berkeley, and we met every week and just were cherishing the idea of the CSO, this intersection really of, you could say, spiritual and so-called secular education, but just really cherishing the purpose of the CSO. And we held we shared ideas and prayed, and then gave testimonies, experiences, just whatever to lift up our kind of vision of this and our love for it. And I think it was several years, but then students started coming. And since then, we've had just a strong, small core. And so those members, of course, no longer, not members, those local or members of local churches no longer come, but they were, I think, really instrumental in just cherishing that and kind of growing it again, as it were.
Thanks so much for sharing that. That's awesome. I've heard that story before, so it's great to hear it from a primary source. And I think that's just such a wonderful way of church members coming together to support this activity. That's wonderful. And I just want to share one story on top of that too before we wrap up, Chris, if that's possible. There might be another question as well. But going off of that, another situation that sometimes happens is when there's students on campus or faculty member and students on campus who are Christian Scientists, but there's not an interest in starting a CSO, because I know the CSO at Texas A&M, and this was probably maybe 10 years ago or so, had been really active. And then a bunch of the most active students graduated, and there was one sophomore who was really interested in the CSO who was still there, and a couple of other students who were kind of thinking about their role as Christian Scientists, but definitely not interested in being involved in the CSO. And the sophomore, went around and talked to people, and of the students, brought them together and had lunches together and things like that, and nurtured them until they felt connected again to Christian Science to restart the CSO. So I really love that story.
Thanks, Ariana. And I just want to acknowledge that both Haley and David also contributed to the chat roll, and they both mentioned that they have a minimum requirement of 4 undergraduate students to sign up for the CSO, and both these CSOs at University of San Diego and University of California, San Diego, and the University of Central Florida are both currently forming and working towards getting those meeting those minimum requirements that the school has for their for these student groups. And so, just I'm sure a lot of what we've been sharing has been speaking to you guys and addressing those subjects, and I'm just really, really grateful that we could all come together here and just really rally around this idea collectively about why CSO, and just get on the same page and think about the big picture here. So we should probably wrap it up, and Ariana, do you want to share some concluding remarks with us?
Yeah, so just one thing that I've been thinking about is just, and I'm just going to ask you all not to forget, is that each one of us is needed. You all are needed, regardless of whether or not you're involved in a CSO. But just to be really thinking about, as we talked about before, as you feel a sense of connection with Christian Science and a sense of gratitude for what it's done in your life, also thinking about just what you can gain and what you can give by being involved in a CSO and in these organizations that are laid out, these opportunities to get together that are laid out in the church manual, to really work together. So we're supporting each other, we're learning from each other. These are all opportunities to grow in Christian Science, and the CSO is definitely one of those opportunities as well. So whether or not you're involved in it, if you're kind of thinking about it, or maybe there's not a CSO on your campus, definitely just nurture the sense if you're interested in it, and you're really thinking about the idea, because there definitely are benefits to it in terms of the impact that it can have on the campus and on your own life. And for those of you that are already involved in CSOs too, just continuing to think about kind of this bigger purpose of what we get to be involved in, so it doesn't just get into the nitty-gritty day-to-day stuff, but it's really what we're a part of is really important, and so we get to be a part of this continuation of being able to make Christian Science more accessible.
Certainly. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. We are going to be doing these sort of chats about once a month throughout the school year. So we'll keep everyone posted. Look for our next one here coming up in November. And if you have an idea or an intuition about a good topic that you want to hear addressed here, we would love to have your ideas. So please email us at csosupport@csps.com, and we'll take that into consideration. So, gosh, thanks all for joining. We're going to end the broadcast now, and you guys just have a wonderful rest of your afternoon and weekend. So we'll look forward to being in touch with you directly if you email us at csosupport@csps.com. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.